Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Spectre and Spooks podcast. Thank you for all being here today. We have a really awesome guest. Today's guest has been a police officer for 22 years, founder of the Ghrist High School Paranormal Society, founder of Northwest Indiana Paranormal, and starring in the new series you can find on Netflix, History Alive, produced by DMZ Productions. Please welcome to the stage Pete Ghrist. Hello, Pete. Did I get that right?
Well, it's Pete Ghrist, but that was close. And it's going to be on ParaFlixx, not Netflix.
Oh, what did I say? Netflix?
ParaFlixx. Yeah, but ParaFlixx is the Netflix of the paranormal, so it was close.
That is true. It is the Netflix of the paranormal world for sure. So thank you so much for being here, Pete. I appreciate it. Why don't you go ahead and tell some of the viewers here a little bit about yourself and what got you into the paranormal to begin with, especially for a police officer. I think that's a lot of people find that to be like, really, because they're usually so level-headed and they're so like logical. So what kind of got you into that space?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I've always been interested in spooky stuff, Halloween, those type of things. But back when I was about 19, my grandfather had just died, and we were living with them, kind of helping take care of my grandpa. And I was living in this basement of this house, and it was just kind of sectioned off corner of the basement, with like the rack of clothes that made up one wall and things like that. But it was cool for a 19-year-old down there. At the time, it was right next to where my grandfather's drafting room was. And so he had just passed away. We were still living there. I'm living down in the basement. And in the middle of the night, I felt it felt like somebody was pulling the bottom of my covers, like kind of pulling my blanket off of me. And I ended up like grabbing the end of it, and I'm not looking down at my feet because, God knows what's down there looking back at me, So I'm like holding on to it, but I'm looking away from it. And finally I just let go of the blanket, and the whole blanket got pulled off of me. And, I never looked down at my feet, but as I'm running up the stairs, there was this big loud crashing noise inside of my grandfather's drafting room. It sounded like a bucket of ice being dumped on the floor. And I ended up going upstairs, and I never slept down there again, but I had like this adrenaline rush from that. And it, after I calmed down, I went down there to make sure it wasn't one of my brothers or my sister down there or something like that playing a trick on me. There was nobody down there, and that was the only way out was the stairs to go up. And it just gave me like this rush where I was like, I wanted to know what happened. And I wanted to experience that rush again. And you get all of that with the paranormal, where you get to go and try to investigate things and try to figure out what that was. But at the same time, it's full of those type of adrenaline rushes that happen, that you're hoping for to occur on every investigation.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you find that after that kind of happened to you, do you find that you found yourself noticing more paranormal stuff as you grew up, more paranormal stuff as you I know being a police officer, you must see some crazy things. So how does that kind of translate your ability to kind of be aware of stuff around you that is not explainable? How does that kind of blend into your work as a police officer in a way that maybe other people who don't have the same experiences as you would think of that?
Well, like after that experience, it was kind of like something where, you go looking for things that are going to allow you to get involved with that. I started watching the stuff on TV, watching Ghost Hunters, and Paranormal State was my big one. I loved that show when I was growing up. But it was those type of things that you go looking for, and then you start associating with the people that also like those type of things. and then they bring you to the actual venues where these things are occurring, and now you're not just watching it on TV, you're actually doing it in for real life. And my first actual ghost hunt, so to speak, was with a bunch of cops. So there was a bunch of them. They were going over to Old Lake County Jail in Crown Point, where John Dillinger escaped from in 1934. It's an 1882 jail, just awesome place run by wonderful people. Sandy Boyd is the president there, and they just do a wonderful job. So I ended up meeting her for the first time. There was a guy, Mike McDowell, and he was running these tours there and ghost hunts, and we went and did it. And there's the people that were kind of running around making ghost noises and stuff like that. But we also had several things happen, and there's me walking around with a couple of police officers, and we're like, wow, and we're all trying to figure out, did that really happen, or what could have caused that kind of stuff. So it's just the natural in us to want to be able to say, hey, is that explainable or not? You know what I mean? And so like after that, it just turned into, I want to do this again. I have to do this again. And before long, I'm some of the people that I knew from there and people that I knew from outside of there that didn't go to that, I'm telling them about it. Oh, we got to go back. And then we're going to cemeteries, and we're going to a nearby place called Reeder Road in Griffith. And it just kind of grew from there. But it led to, going through my job the way that it is. People are always like, have you had a whole bunch of experiences happen where you're, actually not really, not a whole lot of things have happened where I'm kind of like, oh, well, that might be paranormal type related. I mean, there is a couple different things that have happened that were kind of unexplainable, and you kind of have that in the back of your mind. But mostly I try to keep like the police officer, other than the kids group, and actually the stuff that happens with the paranormal separate. There's actually people who have actually called the police station and asked for me because of something paranormal related.
That's awesome.
And then they'll like go, yeah, there's this person asking for you, this and that. And I'll be like, tell them I'll call them after I get off work. That kind of stuff. Because it's like, I just feel like I need to maintain that level of professionalism and not be like, showing up like Ghostbusters at people's houses in my uniform and stuff like that. So it's definitely something you want to keep separate, and maintain that professionalism. You don't want to be testifying in court and then somebody's like, wait a minute, isn't that guy who, that kind of stuff. So
absolutely. That's so good.
Yeah.
But I think it kind of takes me to my next point. So you were talking about, other than the kids group, so you are a resource officer at the Griffith High School, and you're also you run that paranormal society there, the Griffith High School Paranormal Society, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what's that like in terms of like, you have that job as the resource officer at the high school, and then being able to kind of mesh that. I feel like we talked about this before we kind of went on, you being from Indiana and that being a little bit more of an open state in belief in the paranormal in general. I feel like the Midwest is already kind of like that a little more than other places across the country, right? I'm from Washington. They're not into it over here at all. So do you feel like that openness about the paranormal in general made it easier for you to kind of implement that? Like, how did that work, becoming a resource officer and then like opening this kind of space for kids, which I think is the coolest thing ever, by the way, because kids need something like that. But this like paranormal society for the high school kids, how did that work?
Well, I got assigned there in 2009 for the 2009-2010 school year. So during that time leading up to when we founded it in 2013, I started like I was still doing like the stuff outside of work. So I was going out. There was actually one of the teachers and we were going to places and going ghost hunting, and then there was a custodian there that started going, and she's actually now the co-founder of both of the groups that I have, the custodian, or the co-sponsor of both of the groups. But we ended up doing that for several years. And then we would come back to school and you establish those relationships, with the students. It's a middle school and a high school where I work. And so like, we'll be talking about stuff. And like you said, Indiana is really into the paranormal is what it seems like. So it's actually a cool thing to be part of. If you think back to like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, people would be like, hey, do you want to go ghost hunting? And you kind of keep it to yourself, otherwise people might make fun of you about it actually. Now it's very, very cool. Around September, my phone starts ringing for people who want to go ghost hunting, that kind of stuff, the people who don't normally want to do it because it's just an in thing to do. And there's some people who want to do it all year round. So we started doing that for a couple of years. We're talking about it. And then so the kids are like, why can't we go on these? And we'd be like, well, we can't take you with, you guys are students. And then they're like, we should have a club. And it was actually the students' idea that they should have a club where they could do that. And I'm like sitting there thinking, I'm like, oh, I don't know if they're going to approve that. And I went to the principal at the time. It was this guy, Mr. Cope. And I went to him and I said, he was an older guy too. He was like towards the end, they had actually brought him out of retirement,
Wow.
to come back and be a principal. Yeah, he was an older guy and real cool guy though, and I just said, hey, I'm going to write it up. I put it really heavy on history, and that's very important, very, very important, preservation. And we ended up submitting that to them, and he approved it. So myself and a teacher, Jenna Parker, at the time, we ended up forming this club in 2013. And the first year we had probably, 4 pieces of equipment, like a K2 meter and a digital recorder and some dowsing rods and stuff like that. But then I started saying, okay, well, hey, we have 12 kids going in here at a time. I need 12 K2 meters. So we get 12 of them so everybody has it. And that's how I started amassing like the amount of equipment I have. And now I have probably $8,000-9,000 worth of equipment stocked up now. So, but now since that time, we've gone on 188 trips to 34 different locations, and we've donated over $6,000 to historical sites.
Oh.
We were on Windy City Live in Chicago in 2019. And then we do community service projects. On every year, we put flags on the graves of American veterans, American soldiers in Hammond and surrounding cemeteries, and cemetery cleanups. In the past, we've done food boxes. And then now I just wrote a grant and we got it approved, and we're going to start doing headstone cleaning next year. We're going to have somebody come and teach us the correct way to do it, and they're going to learn how to do it. And we're going to start with veterans headstones. So we're going to start doing those type of things. So that has really, really blown up. First year, like I said, probably about 34 people in it. Now we regularly have over 100 students in it every single year.
I love that. That's so amazing. I love that you're teaching the kids, like you're giving them something that they want to do. They've spoken. The tribe has spoken. They want to do this. And it's a way for you to start implementing how important it is for them to give back. So they're getting that at a young age, this kind of idea of, number one, history being important, because I feel like nowadays kids don't really care about history, and you got to care about history, right? I mean, you just got to. And I think that it's so cool that there are kids out there who want to be a part of it, and then they have someone to look up to like you, and then you're able to kind of implement all these really cool things as a way for them to give back. Does the volunteer stuff, does that ever translate for seniors for like their volunteer hours or volunteer work or anything?
Exactly. Like people that are actually going for honor society, type things, or they're going to apply for college. We actually, I will write them letters of recommendation and things like that. And I'll include the service type stuff that they do. Just being part of the group by itself, in a sense, is a service type organization. And I try to make it more and more that, with the fact that they're donating out of their own will. To these places, we'll do like a suggested donation. Hey, $5 a person, that stuff. But not everybody has that,
Yeah.
and some people come in and give more, and some people don't give anything because they just don't have it. Yeah. So it's just over time that has just started racking up to the amount to over $6,000. But what I love most about the group, other than that, is the fact that it brings together students from all different walks of life. So you have people that are cheerleaders, football players, Dungeons and Dragons club, band members, and some people who just don't do anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Other than that club. And we have them all together, and they're going on these clubs, and these people would have never talked to each other. Sometimes they would have never associated. And then you see them the next day and they're standing next to each other, and they never would have talked to each other if it would have, if it wasn't for the club, for them associating with it. So that's my favorite part about it, is that, and then, everything else just comes right along with it.
I love that. That's beautiful. I'm such a softie for kids, you know what I mean? Like, I also am kind of curious about what location they kind of collectively feel is like the most haunted location that they've been to. Like, what's the consensus on that amongst the kids?
I would probably say the place that I told you about, the Old Lake County Jail.
Yeah.
They are so nice. They let us come there all the time, and we always start off the year with it. And it really just sets the year in motion to go there. But like I said, there's over 100 kids in it usually, and so we have to go there several times because I drive the bus. I got certified to drive the bus, and then so I'll drive the bus, but it only holds 15. Counting me. So we'll bring a couple parents. We always encourage the parents to come along, which, by the way, the parents sometimes are like, my daughter is grounded, but can I still come? They'll say stuff like that. It's pretty funny, because they just enjoy it that much. But so it turns into where we'll go on there, and we'll have to go there like 4 times, and to bring 60 people through there. And they always at the beginning, they're like, are we going to do the jail first? Because they really want to do that. When we first started this, it was just juniors and seniors. We only allowed you because we wanted it to be the mature kids.
Right.
And then we found out the freshmen and the sophomores love it just as much.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I end up bragging about these kids because they are so good. You would think that, there'd be stories of, they're running around, they're doing this and that. These kids are quiet. They sit there and listen. They ask questions. And we have never, ever in 188 trips had a bad problem where somebody said, we don't want you to come back, or these people were acting up, or something got stolen from a museum, or something got broken. We've never had an incident. In fact, they call us and ask us to come back.
Oh my God, I love that. That's so good. I think it has a lot to do with what you said. It's like, this is something that they want. They're doing it with someone that they respect. And I feel like when kids are involved in something that really truly piques their interest, they don't crap all over it, so to speak. They're more respectful because it's something that they want to do. It's something they're interested in doing. And it takes time and effort on their part as well because it's after hours and, school. So it's like, I feel like that will draw a crowd that actually has a vested interest in what's going on with, with it, for sure. So thank you for doing that for the kids. I feel like I wish more people would be able to do this, and more high schools, more locations would be able to kind of come together that way. So I think it's just the coolest thing. So thank you for doing that for the kids, for sure. I would have to say, outside of I know you've probably traveled much more outside of Indiana and done a lot of investigation on your own outside of the high school, outside of the kids. And we'll talk more about where that's taken you. But I would have to ask you, you personally, for all of the places that you've been to location wise, what place do you feel is the most haunted and why, outside of maybe one of your local spots that you're used to?
Well, that's a good question. We've been to Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, obviously Illinois, Wisconsin, those type of things. And Ohio has been lately kind of our go-to.
Yeah.
Ohio has a ton of places. And I would probably say probably the most haunted place that I've ever seen that I've ever been to, that would be kind of like something that you might run into, something that you might see like on a movie or a TV show happening, is probably the Monroe House in Hartford City, Indiana. And it's not something that everybody would know about. Locally, everybody over here knows about the Monroe House.
Yeah.
But I've been there 7 times, and I've never had a night where nothing happened.
Yeah.
It's and the stuff that the story behind it is it was actually investigated by Nick Groff and Katrina Weidman a couple of years ago when they had their show, and they were locked in there for 3 days. I think they did it, and they actually found the skeleton of a teenage boy in the crawl space downstairs in the basement. And so there's a lot of different stories about witchcraft, if there was a serial killer that was living there, things like that. But we've had a lot of different things happen there that you just kind of feel like you can sleep there, but you don't want to,
Right.
those type of things. There's been times that we're kind of been like, yeah, it's been a real active night. We're going to just go ahead and go to a hotel,
Yeah.
but then there's a couple nights that we've said, hey, we're going to brave it out. We're going to stay here. And, you wake up in the middle of the night, the temperatures drop like 30 degrees in there.
Yeah.
It's just that kind of stuff. So Hartford City, and then I would probably say a second one would be like the Roth House in Illinois. And that is where the first documented spiritual possession took place during the 1880s with the Roth House. So that would be second. And then third would be probably Ohio State Reformatory.
Oh, yeah.
Where Shawshank Redemption was filmed.
Yeah.
That place is just absolutely amazing.
That's crazy. I want to go to Ohio so bad. There's a couple bucket list places for me, and I feel like Ohio is one of them. I feel like Eloise is another, for sure. There's something about an asylum that brings out a different type of haunting, in my opinion, than other places. The only asylum I've ever been to so far is Sheboygan.
Okay.
Yeah. And I saw a full-bodied, like black shadow figure go right across the chapel door. I was just like, Martin, did you see that? He's like, yeah, I saw that. Dave is down looking at his EVP recorder. Everybody's looking at Dave, and we're looking at the door like, you saw that, right? He's like, yeah, I saw that. We were the only ones.
Everybody's paying attention to Dave and what he's doing, so they missed it. Yeah.
So it was good, but the vibe in there, and I mean, there were so many things that Martin and I were almost stunned. We were staring at each other like, are we the only ones seeing this? And you don't want to interrupt people, or they're gathering up their stuff. They're getting ready to leave. I remember we were in one wing. It was like the nurses' wing. And it was the last one of the night, or it was the last round we were doing of the night. And we were, it's Sheboygan's like kind of in that same kind of circular, half circle shape, like a lot of the asylums tend to be. So we're on one side and we're looking over, and we see all these ghost lights just going off. And we're like, is that another team walking through the hallway? And then it jumped to a second floor like that. And it just kept going back and forth. I'm looking at him like, you see that, right? He's like, yeah. I said, and everybody's packing up, and I'm like, I don't want to be like, hey guys, like, look over here. But yeah, it's wild. Have you ever been to Sheboygan?
I have not been to Sheboygan. My girlfriend went there, and she went there they had like a girls' night, and they all went up there, and they went there for it was more of an event.
Yeah.
Where they went there and had a guide taking them around and everything like that. So I haven't been there. But it kind of sounds like the vibe from Waverly, and I went to Waverly for the first time this past year, so
Wow.
I had always wanted to go there and went there. But it's the same kind of vibe where you're kind of like walking around and your eyes are constantly adjusting as you're going through there, and you're just waiting for something to happen. And then like if something happens, you don't want to take your eyes off of it to get somebody else's attention. You just hope that they're looking as well.
Exactly. Yep, I totally understand that. That's wild. So with your paranormal team, Northwest Indiana Paranormal, so who would that consist of?
Well, actually, how I was telling you about how like there was like the adults that go with on the kids group. Well, they started like saying, because with the kids group, we can only maybe go like the most 2 hours away from the school.
Right.
I mean, and that's pushing it.
Mm-hmm.
So like we started going, the adults are like, man, I heard about this place and this place and this place. We should just get together without the kids and go to this place. And that's kind of where that was born. So that
Mm-hmm.
was 2018. We started that. And that has over probably about 3,000 followers now.
Yeah.
And we're completely inclusive when it comes down to anybody who wants to join. So we don't like make you fill out an application or pay dues or anything like that. We just want people to join, and we want to meet new people, and we love helping new people start their own groups.
Yeah.
So people will come and hang out with us. They'll go on a couple trips with us, and they'll go, hey, we want to start our own group. And we'll help them design a logo. We'll get them started and everything like that. So we've met so many really cool groups. There's groups Spectral Recon Paranormal that actually invited us to go to Waverly with them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we ended up going to Waverly, was with them. There's another team called Ghouls Night Out. It's like girls' night out. It's a bunch of women, and it's just fun people, and they invite us and we invite them, stuff like that. But that group allows us to go to all these neighboring states, and we're wanting to go to West Virginia this year, Pennsylvania, Kansas. God. We want to go to the Sally House in Kansas. But we also want to hit all those ones that are like, that nobody's really heard about. Those are my favorite places that aren't over investigated. There's a place called the Gill House in Ohio that, I remember we were at OSR for Parapsychon, and we were talking to some of the people there, and we were just like, and they're like, what's that? And I'm like, exactly. That's why we're going there. And it was just so full of activity, especially in the basement there, and nobody had ever heard of it. It's just really, really cool to go to those type of places. But it also allows us the community service side, because we will travel just to go and do a cleanup thing. So we'll go to the Hannah House in Indianapolis, or we've gone to Ohio and gone to speakeasies and gone over and done these service projects where we're helping them clean up these type of things. And that's another cool place to meet people that are like-hearted, like we are. So we want to meet people that aren't just all about, investigating. We want people who actually care about the history and the preservation that goes along with those type of things.
Right. I love that. Well, first, para-unity is another subject altogether.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
So thank you for actually, being that, not just saying para-unity, but actually showing para-unity. I love that. I mean, Martin and I keep our circles so close because we just see a lot of really rough stuff. So we're just kind of traumatized. So we're like, just you and me. But then we'll do things with Kim and Scott Horn, or we'll branch out that way. But I think it's cool, the locations that when people don't really know about a location, and then giving back to that space as well. But for Martin and I, we have a buddy. His name is Chris Fisk. He's out of Butte, Montana. He was on Ghost of Devil's Perch and a couple of other programs, but he was the history teacher for a long time there. He's like a historian in my eyes. He's a historian. And Chris lets us come over to Butte and get into buildings that just aren't open for that kind of thing. It's just not a thing, right? And I'm telling you, they are the most haunted locations ever.
Wow.
So yeah, we went to one called Silver Bow Center. It's not even open to the public. The senator's office is on the first floor, and then the rest, it's a ballroom on the second. The third used to be brothel rooms. It used to be the playground for the richest of the rich in Butte. And we caught a full-blown shadow figure on camera. It's on all of our social medias and stuff. On camera, we were flipping out. It's, as a medium, probably the thickest energy I've ever been in a building. And they tend to be, I swear, the most haunted. It's whatever's there, whatever energy is there, is just so excited to have any sort of living energy to pump it up. I don't know what's going on, but it's really fun. And I like that you say about giving back, not just investigate. Because Martin and I have been getting together with Chris Fisk what we want to do is start putting on some events in Butte that are smaller, smaller numbers, maybe cap it at 20 people. I'll do a gallery reading. Chris Fisk will do like a history time, and then we take them to a location in Butte, and we do a paranormal investigation, lead them through a paranormal investigation, and then take all of that proceeds and give it back to a building in Butte that needs the money for restoration, and just do that like 3 times a year. And every time just take that money and give it to one of the let Butte decide, let Butte, the people in the Butte Historical Society or whatever, decide what building needs it most, and just kind of do that a few times a year, because these places need it. They need help. They need that. And without that help, it disappears. And I can't even imagine that. Nothing breaks my heart more than watching like an old Victorian house get torn to the ground,
Yeah. It's that's, first of all, that's amazing. Thank you for doing that, because that's what it's all about, as far as I'm concerned. And so a lot of people get involved with the paranormal for different reasons.
Yeah.
There's some people who see dollar signs and they want to go over and make money, and to each their own. They want to run a business and they want to do it. That's fine. And some people, want to do it because they have gifts and they want to give back to the community and things like that as well, or a little bit of both. That's great, and then there's other people who are all about the preservation with it. And so you meet people from all different walks of life. Now, every single one of those categories has a few toxic people in it. Yeah. And those type of people, we know that you can almost catch them right away. Sometimes they weed their way in for a little bit, and then you have to be like, okay, we got to shake this person, that kind of stuff. Or, all right, hey, we're going to help you start your own group, hey, good luck to you, that kind of stuff. But we don't want you to come with anymore, right. That kind of stuff. But it sounds like you have the exact same type of heart that the people in my group do, you and Martin, to go and want to help these places stay, because there's way too many of them being torn down.
Yeah. It's heartbreaking to see. It makes you want to like chain yourself to the building a little bit and be like, you're not tearing this down. And the thing is this, it's like, I come from a state where, look, Washington doesn't really care about their history. I mean, I'm just going to put it out there. They're not big on it. Like, you know what I mean? They'll tear it down if they need to tear it down, build a big sky rise. They'll do it. I know that, like, I'm from West Seattle. It was like a small suburb right next to like First Avenue, downtown Seattle, just right across the bridge there. And they were trying to, for a while there, get rid of our archival records, our physical archival records. Everybody in West Seattle had to get together and like practically chain themselves to the building. And like, they were going to send them to Ohio or something like that. Like, you're not doing that. No.
It's terrible.
Yeah. They just don't really care. We have a few places out here that are really into preserving their history, and Port Townsend's one of them. We're there all the time. Port Townsend is like #1 spot, but the problem is they're only about the history and they do not want to discuss the paranormal. No. So it's all about preserving the historical buildings, but they don't play around with the paranormal aspect of it. They just don't want to be. I mean, we have hotels that people come from other states to go to these hotels, like Manresa Castle. The Palace Hotel is supposedly incredibly haunted in Port Townsend. And the owners are telling the people at the front desks, do not talk about the paranormal. We do not want to be known as a paranormal location. You are not allowed to discuss it. It's wild. Yeah. And it's sad too, because like, why wouldn't you bank on what's going to keep the building going? Like, why wouldn't you bank on that? I just don't get it. Yeah.
I mean, like, like I was telling you, like in Indiana, most people are open to that kind of stuff, is what it seems like. But, unfortunately, there are a few places around here that are locally that, and I'll send out to new places and I'll be like, hey, can I bring my kids over here? This is what we do. We'll give them a sheet first. Do we just want a historical tour? The tour, then the sheet will have all the information on it about all the historical people that have lived there. And then we're going to give you a donation afterward. We're only going to be there for about 2 hours. We're not spending the night, anything like that. And you'll hear some of these people are like, nope, absolutely not. We don't want any of that kind of stuff going in here. And I'm like, to each their own. That's fine. But I'll also like drive by and be like, I don't see a line outside of your place either.
Right.
You know what I mean? And there's going to come a place and a time where you're going to be like, oh, hey, we need to GoFundMe because we can't keep our doors open, or you're going to, aside from all that, some of those kids will never, ever step foot in that place.
Yeah.
They'll never learn about the place. They'll never know anything about it. But if they would have just let people go in there, aside from the paranormal, that they would have learned about that location. And as far as I'm concerned, it's their job as custodians of that property, not owners of that property, custodians of that property, to do what it takes to get those kids inside of that building to learn about it and just to facilitate it. If they don't want them running around doing paranormal stuff, okay, they could do that outside or whatever the case may be, but at least let them come do a tour, that kind of stuff. And then they could do that kind of stuff outside on the property or something. But, you're not doing that anywhere here, that kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, well, I respect your decision, but, good luck to you.
Yeah, exactly. Good luck to you. I agree with that. It doesn't make any sense to me. Just because the whole point is for that building to, like, you have it for the historical factor, or I get some people are like, well, this is a museum. We want it to stay a museum. And it's like, that's cool and everything. But that next generation is gonna, like, if they don't know about you and it didn't spark their interest at some point in their life, they're not going to be your next customers, like in 10 years, 15 years, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
It's interesting for sure. So I feel like the paranormal has become so at the forefront. I feel like people are so much more open to it than they used to be. And that's a positive and that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Because, I think it's going to really help to preserve a lot in when it's all said and done, for sure. Next thing I kind of wanted to chat with you about, it's actually a big deal, is I feel like I just want to talk about this ParaFlixx series that you are putting out. I'm really excited about that, and I've been seeing a lot online about it. And this is produced by DMZ Productions.
DMZ Productions.
DMZ Productions.
It's out of Crown Point. Darren Zankin is the president and CEO there. So, and he's the producer and everything, director.
So what can we expect from History Alive on ParaFlixx?
Well, History Alive is like when you think about what we were just talking about all these different buildings that are being torn down, things that are being forgotten about. Essentially, history is dead when that takes place. These buildings are gone. Some people will drive by, and you ever heard somebody say, "Oh, there used to be a house there, or there used to be a jail there, there used to be an old courthouse there," and you had no idea that it used to be. If people aren't talking about it, and if people don't know about it, and people aren't relaying that information to the next people, it is dead. Okay. So this is all about talking about keeping history alive through, visiting those places, talking about the history location, because this isn't just a paranormal show. It's got a focus on history. The paranormal is more the second, it takes a little bit of step backwards on that. So the paranormal comes in to find out if those people and those locations are still haunted, if those people are still there, if we can still talk to them about the history. And in that way, we can keep that history alive by talking about, what they went through when they were there, or, if they're still there because of a reason, or they're wanting to move on for a reason, that kind of, and they can't, those type of things. So it's about it like just making sure that information is brought to the next people so that we can say that history is alive. Now it doesn't always, it does not always, take place, obviously. And I won't say which episode it is, but one of the locations that we go to actually ended up being torn down after we left. So unfortunately, there was a big, place where we went, we tried to save it afterward. And we loved the place. We had been there a whole bunch of places before even History Alive took place.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we were unsuccessful. And there's a man that lives and breathes that place, and it broke his heart.
Ugh.
And so it's not just the history of the building. It's not just saving those buildings. There's a lot of people who put their heart and souls into trying to save those places and care a lot about their restoration. And unfortunately, there's some people who just come along and just see forward progress, forward progress, forward progress, and they don't care anything about this history. And so that's what this series is about keeping that history alive.
Yeah, I love that. I love to see a paranormal series that is featuring the history in that way. I know there's some other shows out there that have done a really good job at featuring, stories, histories of the places, making sure that that is in alignment with what the truth is and making sure that those stories are true. But I think that it's really great to see a series, especially on ParaFlixx, because I know when it comes to ParaFlixx, there's a lot to choose from, right? But I think it's nice to have a series that is focused on the history in that way, because I feel like there needs to be a series out there on ParaFlixx that's really digging in that way. And I feel like I've seen some little tiny clips or little bits of it, and I'm just like really excited to see that unfold. So you guys are still filming, is that correct?
Yeah, we've filmed several episodes, and then there's more episodes that need to be filmed. But the first episode is going to be airing on ParaFlixx at the end of January or early February. I think more early February is when it's going to end up being. I know they're putting the finishing touches on that Darren's doing that and his team. But I know that we'll have to get together to film more episodes after that. We have Kara Phillip and Amelia Cotter. They live up in this area, up the Chicago area. And then we have Lee Jacobs and Jamie Stidham and Jeffrey Borsdill, and they live in Kentucky. So, and then I'm Northwest Indiana. So it's like getting people from, down there and up here, and I'm kind of halfway up here, and then getting them together in places, sometimes that, when we're all working, full-time jobs and things like that. Besides this, like Kara's a nurse and Amelia works at a museum and she's an author, so you have people who are busy with life. But at the same time, we have this passion for this show and the things that we want to do. Plus, I know Kara and Amelia knew each other a little bit more, and I had met them before, and Jamie and Jeffrey and Lee knew each other beforehand, but we had never met each other before we were recruited for the show.
Oh, wow.
So we walked into the Fowler Theater on the first time that we ever met each other, and we just clicked. Like, it's not like one of those things where it's like, oh, this guy's trying to be the lead or this person's trying to be the lead. We're all lead investigators on the show. I know that sounds cliche, but it truly is. Whenever we're advertising the show, like on Instagram or Facebook or something, like, you can always tell, like, if Lee's posting it, he's putting everybody else's names first and then Lee. Jamie posted everybody except then Jamie. Then I post everybody and then me. It's so on and so forth. So everybody's always trying to promote everybody else with this. And Kara Phillip, she has a show on ParaFlixx called Into the Obscure. So she's already on ParaFlixx. And then actually Amelia's got a show that's going to be coming up where she's going to have a talk show type thing, but it's going to be talking about history and scary stories and the paranormal and things like that. So she's got a show on ParaFlixx that's going to be coming out as well. So she'll have those two things, and Carol will have those two things. And then I'm actually working on another thing with Tommy Tombstone outside of this, on a documentary that I'm really, really excited about. It started like just going to be like some sort of history thing and with a little bit of paranormal. And I mean, the history part is just way taken over. And there might be some extraordinary announcements that come along with it. I mean, and it all goes back to a story back around 1900. So that thing we're still working on. But so I'm going to be doing that and History Alive. So I'm going to be busy, but I love to be busy.
Yeah.
And I like all this kind of stuff. I can't get enough of it.
Yeah.
And the people that you meet. I mean, tell me that this is not just the most amazing field to meet people.
It is.
Like everybody for the most part has just the
Mhm.
biggest hearts. And I everybody that I've met through Tommy and through Darren
Mhm.
it's just been absolutely amazing people. And so I'm really looking forward to History Alive, though. I mean, this is just going to, I can't wait for you guys to see what we have been doing.
Yeah.
And what Darren, I mean, he's just like when I'm sure you've seen the clips that he's put out. I mean, he's amazing at what he does.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing what he does, and his crew is amazing at what they do. And so I can't wait for you guys to see the finished product when it comes out, probably February, in the beginning of February.
Oh, that's gonna be awesome. I'm really excited to see that. I'm also excited to see all of the stuff that you do, in conjunction with that. Or I'm excited about this documentary series or anything of that nature. I feel like there's always room for like everyone. There's always
Mhm.
room for, new ideas, new ways of thinking, new shows, new collaborations, all of that. And I agree with you. I've met some really incredible people. And I think when I first started moving into this space, Martin and I were both scared to be nice to anyone. We were like, just stay in your lane. Don't look at anybody. Just stay in your lane. Huh, yeah, just be nice, but
Mhm.
don't, you know what I mean? But we have come across some incredible people. I've been working a lot with Brady Goebel from Chasing Paranormal. He's been wonderful to me. Reaper Paranormal, Doug and his wife from Reaper Paranormal have been so nice to me. So we've just gotten really, of course, Kim and Scott Horn, we've just gotten really lucky with the people that we have been able to kind of connect with and have been so nice and so accommodating. And so, you know what I mean? So it's really, really nice because I think people get wind of the bad stuff or the stuff that's like really catty, and it can kind of scare you or turn you away. But in reality, there's so many people in this field, and I've had more good experiences than I've had bad experiences, which is a positive for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know if you've ever had a chance to meet Natalie Jones, the CEO of ParaFlixx. She is like probably one of the most positive people that you would ever meet. And so like you're talking about like going out and meeting these people and stuff like that and they're being positive. I just wanted to throw that name out there as well, just because I mean Darren texted us on an October morning and was like, hey, just so you know, I'm signing contract tomorrow with ParaFlixx. And it was just amazing to go and meet Natalie. I met her at the Rock Island Esoteric Expo,
Right.
which was, gosh, amazing. There's 2,500 people there. It was crazy. But
Mhm.
I went to go meet her, and I'm like sitting there, you don't know what to expect. It's the CEO of a company, and you go up to her, and she was the nicest person. She just like talked to you like she knew you forever,
Yeah.
that type of stuff. And then I met Patty Negri, and she was right behind her, and she came up, and it just amazing people. And so it's not just the show, it's not just the company, it's the people
Yeah.
as well that I'm so excited to be associated with all the way around, because just everybody is just top notch.
Yeah, I love that. I was supposed to go to that expo, that convention. The last one they had, I was asked a couple times to go. I felt so bad that I couldn't make it because it was right at the end of this whole run that I was doing, and I was literally going to be getting right back into Washington State from on the road. I was like, I'm so sorry I can't come. So I got messaged in. So I should be there this year, I believe, this
Oh,
upcoming.
awesome.
if you're going to be there, I'll be
Oh
happy
yeah,
to see. Yeah.
yeah. I'm definitely going there again this year.
That's
So I know
awesome.
that Kara texted me not too long ago, and she was like, "Yeah, you want to go to Rock Island again, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
definitely want to go there." So it was just such a cool place. Amelia was there as well, and they had the um, uh, Annabelle doll
Oh,
was actually there. So it just very very such a cool. Ryan Buell was there.
yeah.
I mean, and like I said, like I was such a big fan of Paranormal State,
Right.
and I had met Heather Taddy and I met Katrina Weidman, but I was like, I always wanted to meet him, and he happened to be there, and so I got to meet him. And just what a awesome story, all the adversity that he has overcome, and
Yeah.
he puts it all out there. He
Yeah.
just says, "This is what I've done. This is what I've been through. Learn from this,
Yeah.
and let me help you get through it if you need it."
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. So just what a great story and what a great person.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to get a chance to come over that direction because I haven't been in that state yet. So that'll be a new one for me.
It's a lot more
I'll be
paranormal friendly this way. So
right, exactly. I'll be bouncing probably from I probably won't leave the Midwest up because I'll be at the Boyd convention the very end of September. So to turn around, go home and come back, I'll probably just stay and then just
yeah.
travel over and yeah.
Well, there's a lot of history there too. So like a lot of people choose to stay when they go there. They stay in actual Airbnbs, and they're all
Yeah.
like 1800s houses. So I know that when we stayed there before, the first time I was there, we got like one room of this 1800s house,
Yeah.
and the people who built the house, like their painting was on their wall,
Oh
and it was
my
like looking at you, you know.
yeah.
And then when you went downstairs, and there was this elderly couple, and they're making breakfast for everybody and all that kind of stuff. So it's just a really really cool place. I mean, this time we stayed in the Holiday Inn, but it was it
Doesn't
was
really compare, but
yeah, it was it's totally different aspects and stuff, but
yeah.
you know
I love
so
that. The bed and breakfasts and they're the best part. And I feel like people kind of are like, oh, I don't want to stay in that old place. I'm like, why? Oh my gosh, I'd be up all
yeah,
night just staring.
yeah. I just wanted to wander around the whole time, you
Right.
know, and I mean, in that town. I mean, have you ever been? I mean, I'm sure you've been there, like to towns where you walk in and it seems like they saved everything,
Yes.
and it's like you're going back in time, and you're walking down the street and there's just people eating ice cream and going into these movie theaters that are still open, and you're like, can I just send for my stuff and
Right.
have it just move here,
Right.
that type of stuff. It's just amazing. There's those places, and then the places that want to tear everything down,
Mhm.
and there's a lot more places of what I'm describing, like out here.
Yeah.
Indiana is it's just amazing. You're like rolling through to go to the places, because one of the things that we love most about going on investigations is the side quests,
Yeah.
where you're
Those are
like
the best
looking
part.
up cool stuff and you want to go off the road, go do it. And we never eat at Texas Roadhouse. Nothing against Texas Roadhouse, I love it. But when we're on these trips, we
Mhm.
don't go to those places. You go to the mom and pop restaurants,
Yeah.
or the haunted, type hotel restaurants,
Restaurants. Yeah.
those type
Yeah.
of things. So that's all part of the fun.
Mhm. I agree with that completely. That's right up me and Martin's alley because look, the thing is, the closest that we are is Butte. We absolutely love Butte. We would live there if we could, but it's one of those towns that like literally have tried not to change a thing and it's all the buildings are still there. And I mean, it's only a 9.5 hour drive for us from where we're at. So it's like we go to Butte as often as possible. And that's the feel. It's like everything is the same. They care about the history, they preserve their locations, and the people are so nice. They're just so nice and accommodating. And I don't know if it's a like I know in Butte they're I'm like maybe it's true what they say about Washingtonians, with like the Seattle freeze. I'm like, you can't get anything out of your waiter over here. They can't even be bothered. You're just an annoyance to them. And then you end up in like Butte and they're like, so nice and they want to wait on you. And they're like,
Mhm.
it's kind of crazy. But I know that those Midwest places have a ton of that going on. So
Mhm.
yeah, I can't wait to get to your state and enjoy it and kind of like get a chance to absorb it because I have not been to Indiana at all. Been to Minnesota, gonna be in Iowa, haven't been to Indiana. I've been to Wisconsin, but so it's definitely one on my bucket list for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I remember going to Rock Island, and we were going through, and there was like um, just a town that we just started to, go through, and we're like, wow, this place is like, it started with a train depot, and then we're downtown looking at this place, and all of a sudden there's a statue of Abraham Lincoln, and it was where he and Stephen Douglas debated in this park, and they
Yeah.
kept this park where it was. And then you go around the corner and, oh, Abraham Lincoln used to, practice law in this courthouse. And you're like, and there's a restaurant to eat, where you could eat across the street. Yeah, we're going there to eat, so you
Yeah.
could sit there and stare at the building,
Right.
those type of places, so to me, it's all about, I mean, it sounds cliche, it really does, but it's like, we learn so much while we're going, and then we'll plan our next route to go through these places again,
Hmm.
so that we can go and visit. There's a place called Monster Pizza in Decatur that's right outside of Fort Wayne, and it's just got like, it's like the old style, like Bela Lugosi, stuff. You can see behind me all the Dracula stuff and everything
I
like that.
love
And
Bela
I'm really
Lugosi.
big into all that kind of stuff. And it's all focused on that. And when you're eating, it's all dark in there, and they have old black and white horror movies playing on screens on
Oh my
either
God.
side of thing. And we're like, so if we're within 100 miles of that place on our trip,
Yeah.
we will go there to make sure that we eat there every single time we go that direction, just because you find these places and then you want to go back again and again.
Absolutely. That's so cool. Yeah, no, I've got the Frankenstein on here and then I got the creature from the black light. I love it. I love the black and
Yeah,
white.
it's
Those black and
amazing.
white
They don't
pictures.
make them like that anymore.
They don't. They don't. But yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I feel like I just want to say like thank you for keeping history alive. Thank you for caring about it. Thank you for caring about the kids. Thank you for drawing in a new generation of kids that are interested in this because there are kids out there who are just like us, have had paranormal experiences growing up and maybe they can't put their finger on it. They don't understand it, but to have a place where they can explore that curiosity. So thank you for your service of police service for the last 22 years. And just, you know what I mean? I just thank you for being here tonight. So thank you for being a part of the podcast and agreeing to come on and talk about all of the projects that you're a part of and all of the things you're doing in the community because it matters. It very much does matter. So thank you for being here tonight, Pete.
Well, thank you for having me.
Of course. And before we take off for the evening, I just want to make sure that everybody knows where they can find you, what you're doing, all of that. So go ahead and just tell everybody where they can find you and what you're doing.
Again, my name is Pete Ghrist, and it's spelled Ghrist. It's just like Christ, only with a G at the beginning. And I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and I have pages for those. And then Northwest Indiana Paranormal has a page that's open to anybody to join. Obviously, the Griffith High School Paranormal page we keep just for the students. But the Northwest page is available for anybody to join and follow. And if you ever, after you join it, if you see that we're going somewhere, what we do is we'll put out, hey, we're going here, and this is how much it costs. We don't make anything off of it. It's completely not for profit. So if it says that it's going to be $20 to go to this place, I'm paying $20 too. We all are paying $20. So it's completely not for profit. We'd love to become nonprofit eventually. So we're working towards that. But in the meantime, not for profit. We're looking to go to a whole bunch of different conventions this year. We have Northwest Indiana Paracon. We're going to be helping run that for the first time this year. That's in February 22nd in Cedar Lake, Indiana. So we're looking forward to that. And other than that, History Alive has Facebook and an Instagram and a TikTok. I don't have TikTok, but it has TikTok as well. And DMZ Productions. Those are both on there. Please follow those so you can find out when History Alive is going to be debuting. Also, obviously, subscribe to ParaFlixx. It doesn't cost a lot at all. I mean, I believe it's about $4 a month with their. They have all sorts of promotions all the time, things like that. But they, in addition to History Live, they have so much stuff on there, like you were talking about, just so much broad spectrum of different things that you can do, that you can watch. So, but History Alive, please follow us, Northwest Indiana Paranormal, and Pete Ghrist. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pete, for coming on tonight. I appreciate you. And thank you, everybody who was watching. And we will see you again soon with another episode of Spectre and Spooks Podcast. Thank you all and good night.